Hey, what's going on everyone? Sam here with Lake Pro Tackle. Guys, I hope you're having an amazing day. This video, we're gonna be going over some finesse wintertime techniques to help you get more bites on the bodies of water that you're fishing. This applies to lakes, applies to ponds, rivers. Really, it doesn't matter what you're fishing, but these techniques here will hopefully allow you to get more bites in the wintertime. You know, in the wintertime, and really even late fall time, the water temps are gonna be falling around sub 50s, and right now here in North Texas, our water temps are anywhere from 55 to 53. So we're almost coming up on this time period of where the fish are a lot slower, their metabolism slow down. They don't want to chase a lot of really small lures anymore, you know, like your typical crankbaits, and you're going to have to come up with some unique and clever ways to catch them. So these are some of my favorite techniques in the wintertime to help me and hopefully help you get some more bites. So we're gonna go over a couple lures, gonna go over some terminal stuff, and we've got a couple rods here to show you from the store here, and you can find all this equipment here at lakeprotackle.com. And you know, if you haven't already, subscribe to the channel, guys. We love seeing the growth. Share the video to your social medias, and if you're not following us on social media, you definitely want to. We're posting updates on fishing reports, updates on video releases, and other cool content like that. So go follow us at Lake Pro Tackle, and let's go ahead and hop into the first technique here. The first technique that I'm going to talk about, y'all, I'm sure y'all have heard it before, and we're going to talk about the Ned rig. Now the Ned rig, there's a lot of different ways to throw a Ned rig, a lot of different baits that you can throw on a Ned rig, but this is going to be one of my favorite baits and heads to throw. So this guy right here, this is the Divine 6-inch Divine Ned rig football head. And what's great about this terminal bait here as a Ned rig head is that, one, it's a football head, so I can really drag this in and around a lot of rocks. I won't have a lot of issue snagging up. Usually what happens with a Ned rig is you'll get one that has too small of a head and it wedges itself between the cracks in the rocks. And you know, when that happens, you pull on it, it gets stuck and it's not coming out. Well, with this football head that 6-inch has here, that football head's gonna work around that rock and hopefully, you know, not get in those cracks. But you know, that wider head allows it to roll through those cracks much easier. Along with that, it's got a nice short but stout hook. It's like a sickle hook. It's got a little V in it, as well as two little wire weed guards on it, and they are super, super cool. These come in two sizes here at the store in two different colors. We've got 1/8 and 3/16. Those are gonna be my favorite sizes, and I'm gonna say the keepers on this is one of the best things really that I love about this bait, because the keeper, it's got three little ridges on it so your baits stay nice and secure to it. And normally in the wintertime, I'll super glue my plastics on there anyway, just to make sure they stay on over time and I won't have to mess with them. But we're gonna talk about a little bait here made by Spro. That is the one that I will pick out most of the time throughout the year, especially when it's really, really cold. So Spro has this awesome little bait. It's called the Sakura 3.5-inch, and it has some UFA technology in it. So it's the ultimate floating action bait. It's kind of similar to Elastec. It doesn't have any salt in it, and it's highly buoyant. So it floats really, really well, especially on this football Ned head. So what this is if you're familiar with something like a TRD, the Z-Man TRD, you know that the TRDs are about a typical Senko size, you know, in diameter. This guy here is gonna be about 25% smaller. We're gonna see if we can focus on that. Maybe not, but you can see how small it is. It's a very, very small profile. It's a great little bait fish imitator. They've got a bunch of colors in these. This one right here is one of my favorites. This is, I believe, Sunfish, but it's a great profile, especially to get bit in the coldest of months. They've got some cool scent in it called Amino Bite, DuraTough technology, and they come in a pack of, I believe, 6, quantity 5, sorry. Made in Japan, so you know this is high quality stuff here, and you can get these for $6.39 a pack. They're super great baits. They've got just a slight quiver on them underwater, and when they want to float, they're gonna sit there and that small tail is just gonna wag, just ever so slightly, and that might be all you need to get bit here in the wintertime, especially when the fish don't want to chase. They're really lethargic. They're going to sit next to your bait just looking at it, and that little bit of motion is going to entice them to come in to eat. So I'm sure most of you have all heard of the drop shot. You know, drop shots are great. Everyone's throwing them now. So a lot of these are going to be something that a lot of people aren't throwing, and you know, hopefully these fish haven't seen them before. So hopefully you're gonna beat a lot of people to the punch. So we're gonna go over the first, we're gonna kind of go in tiers of rods. I've got the first 2 rods here that work pretty universally on a lot of these techniques. Something like the Ned rig, I'm gonna have anywhere from a 7-foot to a 7'6" medium to medium light rod. Depending on the hook size that you have, that hook gauge, if it's a thicker Ned rig hook, I'm gonna have a little bit heavier rod. With those 6-inch ones, a medium is gonna be about perfect, and I'm gonna match that Ned rig up with this Abu Garcia Veritas PLX. Now this Abu Garcia rod here is extremely light. It's got a great bend about halfway through the rod, and then that backbone starts kicking in around the 6th eyelet down. And that's about where I want it for Ned rigs, because I want to be able to drive that hook, especially over long distances. And this is a 7-foot rod again, medium light, but it's got a great tip action on it. And I think one thing that Abu Garcia is doing is starting to get more into the finessier stuff, and they're starting to match their powers and actions a little more accordingly to the finesse fishermen. This guy's only $99.99, and you can get that with free shipping on the website. Again, any orders over $50 are gonna be qualified for free shipping. So check all that out for sure. And this guy right here, this is the 13 Fishing Omen Gold. And this is a kind of on the opposite end of the spectrum. This guy is a 7'6" medium light rod. It's a great finesse rod. This is actually one of my drop shot rods that I like to use because it's nice and long. I can make a really bomb cast out there, but it's also great for something like the Ned rig and some of these other techniques that we're gonna talk about, because it's a 7'6" medium light. So that tip is gonna have a very, very fine action on it. It's gonna have great parabolic bend almost all the way through the rod up to the 2nd to last eyelet, and that's where it's gonna start having backbone. But you have plenty of rod to load up and keep these fish pinned, because that's one of the big issues I see with a lot of anglers, is that they don't keep these fish with a lot of tension, and that's where they mess up, especially when you're fighting smallmouth or really any fish that wants to come up and make a surge at the boat, whether it be a jump or a dive. People will lose tension on them or have too much tension. So having a longer rod, the 7'6" rod, allows me to have enough bend in the rod while maintaining, if they dive, it's gonna go more down, and if they rise up and try to jump, all I have to do is just raise that rod a little bit more, and it keeps a constant pressure on them, keeps those hooks engaged onto the fish. And only at $130, guys, this is a great deal, especially if you're trying to get into the finesse game. It's gonna be one of my top tier rods. All right, next up, we're gonna talk about the blade bait. Now, a lot of people have been talking about the blade bait for quite some time. They're really easy to fish. A lot of people like to complicate the blade bait. It's not that hard. I also see a lot of people throwing it on too heavy of line. For a general rule of thumb, with all these techniques, I'm using 10-pound line all the way down to 6-pound line. And you wanna make sure you have a nice soft line. And what I mean by that is something like a Seaguar Red Label isn't gonna be one that you want. Seaguar Red Label and Invisex are very hard. They're very robust lines. I would go with Seaguar Tatsu, Seaguar Gold Label, Sunline Sniper as well is going to be Sunline Shooter is going to be an amazing one as well. They're all soft lines. They flow very easy. And again, with being fluorocarbon, they're not going to have a lot of stretch on them. You know, you let your drag and let your rod do all that work for you. But back to the blade bait. This guy here is the Megabass Dyna Response in 3/8 ounce. We also have 1/2 ounce here at the store, and we're getting a reload of a lot of cool more colors, so be on the lookout for that. They should be in by the time this video airs, but all you have to do with this guy is you'll have your rod at, let's say, either 45 degrees, and then you're gonna go up to around 90 degrees. We'll say 45 to 80 degrees, so that's about right here, all the way up to here, and you're just gonna make a small, slow motion. You don't wanna whip it super quick, because that bait fish, they're not gonna be moving that quick down in the water. So you're gonna try to imitate a dead or dying bait fish. And one of the great rods, again, is gonna be this Abu Garcia at 7 foot, and I'm gonna go from about here, up to here, down to here, and just follow that bait down as it works through the water column. You can release a little more line. And guys, these rods that I'm talking about are spinning rods, so keep that in mind. You can throw the blade bait on a bait casting rod if you want. Straight fluoro totally works. I just prefer them on spinning equipment. But the Dyna Response, it's got an amazing fall on it. The way the belly is shaped allows this bait to almost fall straight down like this. As opposed to penduluming or going head first, it almost sits completely flat like that. So this is a great way to get bit, especially in the very, very cold months, not just here in the transition time. All right, next up, we're gonna be talking about one of my favorite techniques to use with forward-facing sonar. It's basically a glorified crappie setup with like a crappie jig, but this is gonna be the Demiki rig. The Demiki rig has been a player for me all across the country. You can catch fish on it any time of the year. It doesn't have to be in the really, really cold months, but if you do have forward-facing sonar or you know where some brush piles are with some bass in it, this is gonna be a great technique for you. And all it is you're gonna get a jig head. I prefer one with a lighter wire hook on it, and I prefer my weights to be around 1/8 to 3/16. Now, depending on the depth that you're fishing, you can fish these in, I'd say, 10 foot of waters where I'm gonna start, and then I'll go all the way out to 60, 70, 80 foot of water. It just depends where those fish are, if they're schooled up, if they're suspended. This is just a great way to get bit all times of the year, not just in the wintertime again. So in the store here, we've got these Z-Man Finesse Eyes minnow style jig heads. Comes in a pack of 3 with a 3/0 hook on it. The hook is really important too, because it allows the plastic to go all the way down on it. And with that 3/0 hook, it's gonna be placed so far back that even if that fish just nips at the tail, it should still have that hook. And all your Demiki rig is that jig head, and it's basically a crappie rig setup where you've got your jig head and you've got your bait sticking off. And 2 of the baits that I wanna highlight today are gonna be the Kitech Shad Impact in 4-inch, which might be a little big sometimes. You can also go to the 3-inch or have any other smaller profile baits. But for a 3-inch size, we have these Berkley Powerbait Pro Series Twitch Tails in 3-inch. And these guys are great. The 3-inch is just big enough for those Finesse eyes, those Z-Man Finesse eyes. And you can see here, that tail bulges out just a little bit and provides a slight action. Just like that Ned rig, it's just gonna have a very subtle action, and you wanna impart a little bit of it with the rod tip. You're not gonna be shaking it like this with your whole hand. I prefer just shaking it just with a little bit of wrist movement. And same thing with the Easy Shiner 4-inch. These will have a little bit more flowy action than those Twitch tails. So that's 2 different techniques of the Demiki rig that you can throw. Now we're gonna move up a tier of rods here. We're gonna move up to the Zodius line that we have in store here. The Shimano Zodius is one of my favorite rods that I like to use, especially in the wintertime. And we've got 2 here that are gonna be very similar to each other. It's just the different actions. And these are both 7-foot medium. These are both 7 foot. One's medium light. So again, we're just gonna move up a tier in price. And the great thing about both of them is they have very similar blanks, except for the ends are a little bit different. You can see here, the eyelets almost all line up. The only difference is the medium light slims down about 4 guides down. It's gonna start slimming down. You can really see that difference there between the medium and the medium heavy. And I really enjoy rod companies that do this, where they actually put a difference in the blank and can manage all that. But the Zodius have a great bend throughout them, and I can't really say there's anything wrong with them. Match them up with a Shimano Vanford, and you've got the perfect pairing for your finesse applications. Very last technique here. A lot of people have been sleeping on this one. Hookup tackle, tackle warehouse, tactical bass guys have been talking about this one, but I don't see a lot of people throwing it. And I'm gonna tell y'all should definitely throw it right now. This is the free rig, and all you need, it's basically all the components of a power shot. So you're gonna have a Texas rig hook. I prefer the EWG style on a free rig, as well as they have specific free rig weights, but we don't have any in stock yet, but the Picasso drop shot weights without the crimp. Now that's the big thing. You're gonna have your line to your hook directly, but you put this weight on like a Texas rig hook. So it's gonna go straight through that eyelet there, and it's gonna allow your bait. So let's say we have this Easy Shiner here, right, on the hook with the weight. As you bring this up together, that weight is gonna fall straight down instead of penduluming. So Texas rigs, you'll have your weight here, your bait here, and what's gonna happen is your Texas rig weight is gonna slide down to this corner. It's gonna slide out and your bait's gonna fall down, right? So instead of that, and when you bring your bait in, it's gonna go straight to that weight. With the free rig, that weight here and here, right? Your weight is gonna drop straight down that line because of the shape of that weight and the line tie. Sorry, not line tie, but how it's put on your line. It's gonna fall straight down and your bait is gonna fall straight down with it. So instead of moving your bait through the water, the free rig really allows you to cover water more effectively. And one of my favorite baits to throw on it in the wintertime is gonna be a Z-Man Baby Goat. It's got a very buoyant material, one, which helps it slow down, and you can really keep it wherever you want it off the bottom. And two, the Elastec, just really, really great in the wintertime, as well as the black and blue color. If I am throwing a free rig, it's usually in black and blue. Black and blue all times of the year gets bet even in clear water. Maybe not Ozark clear or like super, super clear, but here in Texas, it's an amazing color. You get Tennessee River lakes and Tennessee River chain, awesome. But this guy right here is gonna be one of my favorite free rig baits. So I hope you enjoyed all these baits here. Hopefully you learned a little bit of stuff. And the last rod we're gonna highlight that we have here in store right now, we're getting a couple more Mega Bass rods in, and hopefully should have the Super Destroyer rods in as well. But this guy here is the Orochi Whip Snake, 6'11" in a 3-power or 3-weight, basically a medium light, and it's got a amazing sensitivity throughout. You can see how limber this rod is here. It's gonna strengthen up about second to last eyelet down, but it's got an amazing parabolic bend on it. Great, great, great for the Ned rig. Really good for that blade bait, and a little bit on the lighter end for the free rig, depending on what weight you have. But this guy is gonna be able to throw your lures really far out there, and it's really, really sensitive. All right, this guy you can find online. You know, you're also gonna get the Mega Bass rod cover, so that's super cool. And we might throw in another Mega Bass sticker in there as well for you. But guys, I hope you enjoyed this video on some finesse tactics that you can throw to these fish and get more bites here in the wintertime. If you've got forward-facing sonar, it's gonna help you a bunch more. But if you don't, guys, you can still throw this around your points, rock transition, ledges, and other great offshore cover. Guys, thanks for watching. Tune in next week for another video. We'll see you next time.